You want to welcome everybody, kick it off?
Hi, hey everyone. Amazing to see such geographic diversity for this great conversation. We're so excited to have you here. I'm Ryan Smolar, the Director of Placemaking US, and locally, I actually do food systems work. And so today came together as a natural marriage between the work we do in placemaking to make our cities more social and connected, but also looking at how we do that and how food plays an integral part. We're not here to talk about why food and community go naturally together. We're going to be actually deep diving into more of the under the hood of how different programs are very intentionally connecting food and people, how they do it, why they do it, how it works, and how hopefully you can bring this information back to your own programs and participation between community and food. I'm so excited to have with me a wonderful person from our universe, Kat Velos from San Francisco, Oakland, East Bay, I should say, who's been working at the intersection of our friendliness and our cities for a long time and has written a book on the topic and will be co-hosting today with me. Hi, Kat. Great to have you.
Hello, everybody. So good to be here. I am so excited to be here for all of this. And I'll just briefly give a little hello and intro. So, as Ryan mentioned, I'm the author of this lovely book, We Should Get Together: The Secret to Cultivating Better Friendships. I'll tell you, I started tracking the loneliness stats in 2015. It hasn't gotten a lot better, but in the qualitative research for that, we have also found a lot of great ways to build community, to make friends in adulthood, to make it all easier. That's what I do in my work, help people build friendships, especially in places that aren't built for it. And as a human centered designer, I advocate for making a built environment and places that make it easier to have community. And that's all the topic of my second book, which you will get soon. But in fact, it's important to keep in mind that our lives might not be designed for connection, our places might not be designed for connection, but there is one thing we do every day, and that's eat. And that's a way to build connection. So that's one reason that I'm super excited to be here today. I will tell you one small mini story from the next book, which is from my personal life. It's about a story about how food brought friends and community together. It's about my friend Dave, who for many years hosted a version of stone soup. Let me know if you know what stone soup is in the chat. Stone soup is when everybody brings one ingredient for a soup and you make a soup together. And he did it with pizza. He made dough every single Thursday and he opened his front door and said, anybody who has a topping is welcome to come in. And so for years and years, we would have a stone soup pizza in his house. Even when he was not in town, he would make sure it happened anyway. And that is one way we brought a ritual into our lives around community, connection, and food. So that is me. I'm thrilled to be here. And if you need anything technical help, I'm here to help in the chat. And I will pass it back to Ryan and our lovely, amazing panelists today. I'm super excited for you to hear about all the programs. So thanks, Ryan.
Thanks so much, Kat. And I love the stone soup story and how that really resonates with the placemaking ethos that the city that has something for all of us was made by all of us. But also, as we saw in the chat earlier, maybe it's stone fruit pizza now, which
I
is
know
so
we could have a stone fruit pizza.
well, excellent. Well, we're going to kick right into this. And we kind of like to do this pretty rapid fire. So we have about seven programs that we're going to be deep diving into how they bring people together with food and place to build better social connections and connection to our place. And so then after that, if you guys have questions, put them in the chat, things you want to bump up. We'll go ahead and help do that throughout the process. And then at the end, we'll have a more of a space for open conversation. You'll be able to turn your cameras on or chime in and add things from your own experience or ask clarifying questions. So we're going to get started right away with my dear friend, the leader of Placemaking Nepal, Niyarika, who is coming to us from Kathmandu, if you can believe that, where very differently from a lot of the places we live in the United States, they still have a very intact food culture. Farmers still come into the city, set up shop right on the street. Courtyards are turned into communal dining centers. And it's really an intentional and beautiful way of still living intact with these traditional ways of being connected to your food system. But as Niharika is going to show us, this still requires a lot of work, preservation, enlivenment, and is deeply at threat by the same conditions that have already overtaken much of our food landscape in the United States. So, Niharika, please take us away to Kathmandu.
So is my screen visible, everyone?
Yes, we hear you and see you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Kat, for bringing us all together through this wonderful webinar. I'm really, really honored to be a part of this conversation. So I am Niharika Mathema, the initiator of Placemaking Nepal, based in Kathmandu. And today I'd like to share how we have been using food as a powerful tool to strengthen community, preserve culture, and create a sense of place. So before delving into the presentation, just imagine two ways of getting your next meal. In the first, you walk through a bustling local market, you smell fresh herbs and spices, hear vendors calling out to familiar faces, maybe feel the texture of seasonal produce, even exchange recipes with a neighbor, and then stop for tea with someone you unexpectedly meet. And in the second scenario, you walk through brightly lit supermarket aisles lined with all these packaged processed foods, or perhaps you don't even leave home at all. You open a delivery app, tap a few buttons, and a meal arrives right at your door. Efficient, convenient, but largely without any human interaction. So, which of these experiences feeds only your body and which also nourishes your sense of belonging? This is the question that sits at the intersection of placemaking, community, and local food, where food is not only something we consume, it is one of the ways we experience a place through all our senses. So most of you might not be aware of the culture, the food systems in Kathmandu. So a brief context setup. Kathmandu has always been shaped by public life, where food has connected people through local markets, through neighborhood squares and communal traditions. And these weren't just places to eat or treat. They were places where relationships, culture, and community were built. And at Placemaking Nepal, we see local food as one of our oldest and most powerful placemaking tools. So I'd like to share three stories of some of the initiatives that we have been doing. And the first initiative began with a simple observation. Many young people, specifically in Kathmandu, did not know about stories behind their own traditional food. So rather than preserving heritage through lectures and presentations, we invited people to experience it around a shared table. Every dish became a conversation about festivals, about family traditions, and childhood memories. And people weren't just exchanging recipes, they were sharing identity and lived experiences. And we discovered that food carried memory. That was our key takeaway. And when those memories are shared, strangers often find common ground. Now, in this second initiative, we asked a different question. Can food help us understand a place? Every local dish became a story about farmers who grew it, the landscapes it came from, about indigenous knowledge, local livelihoods, and biodiversity. And instead of listening to presentations again, we listened to one another. The meal became a platform for storytelling and reflection, and it helped people reconnect with their local food systems and realize that localization isn't just about eating local. It's about building relationships between people, place, and the systems that sustain them through food. And this third story is from one of the eastern parts of Kathmandu's neighborhood of Nepal, which is called Kopchen Thankuta, where communal dining has long been part of the community life. But the challenge was it was a fading tradition thanks to modernization, globalization, where these cultural traditions are often seen as primitive and outdated. And traditionally, in these ways of life, people gathered in chokes or courtyards, sitting together on sukul, which is a woven bamboo mat to share meals. And these gatherings celebrated festivals, it welcomed guests, and sometimes even resolved conflicts and strengthened our relationships. But today, these traditions are fading as urban lifestyles change. But through this communal dining experience that we created, everyone shared a meal, everyone cooked, served, and ate together. Food became more than nourishment, it became a medium to reclaim public space, to celebrate our cultural identity, and build a strong sense of belonging. So, at first glance, these may seem like three different initiatives, but they all explore the same idea. What happens when we stop treating food as a product and start treating it as a place for connection? And at Placemaking Nepal, we firmly believe that every shared meal is an opportunity to strengthen culture, deepen relationships, and turn spaces into places of belonging. So yeah, that's the zest or core of the work that we do here. And thank you very much. If you have any questions or if you want to connect more, you can write to me, email me. So thank you again. Over
Thank
to you,
you.
Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Nirika. I think it's something to highlight that's so powerful about your work is the way you do it in place, that you have seniors and youth and a big group of people always with you in the environments that you're looking about and talking about and exploring, and that always gets you thunderous applause when you present. And I think also for our US audience, people seem to feel it's so novel to have those big long tables of dinners, but really look at Nepal where everybody sits in a circle on the floor and you're served together and you're part of really such a transcendent experience through that seating configuration. So we hope to continue to learn more from you and interact with you. And I hope so much that one day you can come and visit us in the United States or that people can come visit you in Kathmandu, which is your wonderful host.
Yes.
All right. Well, we are moving right along on this gravy train, uh, making landfall here in the US in Jacksonville, Florida. And I think Florida has a very strong brand these days across the United States. But Jacksonville is a very unique and special place that's incredibly rich in its Black culture and its indigenous culture, its connection to the land. And there isn't a better translator and friend maker of the place and the people and the food than Chef Onyx, who's very intentional in the relationships she builds and creates with the incredible meals that she's making under the placemaking banner in Jacksonville under with the support of our dear friend Katie Yellow and the Downtown Jacks and Placemaking Jacks family. So I'll be handing it over to Chef and helping you show a few videos and slides from your work.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. And to just kind of bounce back off of what Ryan just said, Jacksonville is very rich in our African American food culture. And a thing about Jacksonville is that people don't know that our food culture was shaped by the Gullah Geechee community and the Arabic community. And so the Arabic community gave us the camel rider, and the Gullah Geechee community gave us farming and the low country shore coastal foods, and those and dining as a family unit has been something that I have wanted to make sure I continue that tradition and also educate Jacksons on our food culture and where everything comes from, because there is a stigma about our city about how it is full of crab and shrimp restaurants. And there's a reason for that, and that is because of the Gullah Geechee community. So for the first video that I have is the most recent project that I did with Jacksonville Placemaking. And one of the most amazing things about this project was we connected with the land, we connected with the local farmers, which I tapped into our Black farming community, and uh, it was one of the most transformative moments in my culinary journey. And what happened on that day went far beyond plates and far beyond the culinary aspect of our food history. It brought people together on the land under a 300-year-old oak tree, and we ate seeds from the oak tree. We something in that moment cracked something open for me, and it reminded me that culinary creativity doesn't always begin in a professional kitchen, and sometimes it does begin on our hands and knees, reconnecting with where food actually comes from. And that curiosity and the willingness to taste something unfamiliar, to ask what if, is at the heart of how I cook and how I think about food as a craft. And and food has always been my language, not just for the nourishment aspect of it, but for the connection and the storytelling and bridging the spaces between people who might never otherwise share a table. Nothing truly embodied this more than me creating Duval to the World. It was just a gathering that became literally one of the most pivotal moments in my career. And the vision was simple, but super radical, by bringing together chefs from all across Jacksonville with different backgrounds, different economic realities, different genders, different food traditions, and cook for 50 people in a shared celebration of what the city actually is, and not the version of what people assume Jacksonville is and how overlooked we are in our deep rooted West African history and Arabic history here in our city. And what I discovered through the process of creating Duval to the World is that I am, at my deepest core, a connector. And I live in the space between the common and the uncommon with food, and and the seen and the unseen within the culinary culture. Jacksonville has a food history that the world hasn't fully heard yet, one completely shaped by the Gulf and by working class traditions and fine dining ambition also existing side by side. And during that day, we told the story through food to 50 people and tasted it together. This is what drives my passion for culinary education, the belief that the kitchen can be a classroom for empathy and a meal can be an act of equity. And I want to take the same philosophy that built Duval to the World with community rooted and radical inclusion, and to use it to open the doors for the next generation of chefs who don't yet see themselves in culinary spaces. And creativity for me in culinary is about making room for everyone, room at the table, room in the narrative, and room for flavors and people who have always deserved to be centered. And that is a gift that I always will carry, and it's one I intend to keep giving to everyone. And I'm not sure if, let me see, there is a slide. Did you, the slide for the next video? I'm not sure how much time I have.
We did. I showed the second video, and now I'm showing the photo. So if you want to just mention what that video was, you have maybe another minute.
The second video was about introducing Jacksonville to Jacksonville. So we screened local filmmakers that had movies and short films that were centered around food. And also the concession was about Jacksonville's food history and relating to how the Burger King started here. So I introduced Burger King and vegan food because I focus on vegan food. So the history of how the hot dog came to Jacksonville, the history of how the hamburger entered Jacksonville, and other culinary traditions within our city that people had no idea about. And that is my focus, is education in culinary, and also bringing people together in a communal way and a shared space that opens the door for not just education, but also food and flavor. And during the Duval to the World, we also tasted one of our most popular teas, the only tea grown in the United States and focused here in Florida, is the Yopon Holly tea. And Yopon Holly tea is grown right here in Florida. It is plentiful, and it is the only naturally caffeinated tea that grows here. And we did a tasting of that tea, and everyone, this was most of the people that attended their very first time being able to taste a plant that grows right in their own backyard. And so that is what I focus heavy on, is the local farmers, and also what is around you in your own state and city, that you can source and source for free, and with, being economical, because a lot of our dining has become extremely expensive. And I focus on how do I introduce these foods to a community that may or may not be able to dine in a fine dining space, but want to be able to experience food in a way that they never have before. And that's just the heart of what I love to do.
All right, Chef. Well, orders up. And we really appreciate you and your perspective. You're not just the purveyor of food, but you're an alchemist of relationships and an interpreter of place. And I think that those tabletops you made are beautiful, but those
Oh,
displays of
thank
the
you.
entire food chain, bringing that into the site and bringing the dinner table into nature itself is a true testament. And I was so jealous I wasn't invited to that party. So I
Well, one
I
big
need to
special
be my invite to the next one.
Yes, you do. One big special thing about it was the food that was on the table was all actual food. And at the end of the dinner, everyone was allowed to take home the table settings to take home to go and either cook or to continue to do more art with. And it was amazing to see what people did with the food that was on the table.
Amazing. So we're going to bounce up to Philadelphia to our dear friend Taj and her amazing program, Breaking Bread and Breaking Barriers, which is really, really intentional in the way it's bringing people together to a big deliverable. So we'd love to hear about that, Taj. Oh, and I'm showing your slides for you. So well, you'll introduce yourself and then we'll go back.
Yes. Perfect. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Ryan, for the introduction. It's great to be with all of you. My name is Taj Sheikh. I'm with the Welcoming Center based here in Philadelphia. The Welcoming Center is a nonprofit whose mission is to open doors of economic opportunity and empowerment for immigrants from all different education and skill levels, and to help them to build collective agency to address barriers to integration and well-being. So as you know, some of the wonderful speakers before me have touched on, we know that food and sharing a meal can play a really powerful role in helping to connect folks and to build community and to foster integration. And so I'll be talking a little bit today about our program that we're running, Breaking Bread, Breaking Barriers, and how we're using that program to build connections between immigrants and long-term native-born Philadelphians across the city. So before we continue, I just wanted to get a sense of, you can, I don't know if the raising a hand function still is on Zoom, but you can react with the sticker. How many of you have ever purchased Reading Railroad in Monopoly, in the game Monopoly? Great. Okay, Ryan, as you're raising your hand, I see some thumbs up. So if you're familiar with Reading Railroad, then you are already familiar with the birthplace of Breaking Bread. So Reading Terminal Market in Philadelphia is one of the US's longest running farmers markets. It was established in the 1800s. So for some context, the current president and CEO of the Welcoming Center, my boss, Anuj Gupta, he was the general manager at Reading Terminal Market. And at the time, was tasked with how to make the market, as some of our speakers have mentioned, a place of community building that can be relevant to everyday Philadelphians and really celebrates and fosters diversity of all of the different folks that live in Philly. And so just quickly to give a little bit more background on how the program got started, we knew that sociologist Dr. Elijah Anderson, who is the author of a book called The Cosmopolitan Canopy. If you haven't heard of it, I'd really recommend looking it up. It's very interesting. He kind of does different highlights of different places that, again, serve as this cosmopolitan canopy. So despite your language, background, socioeconomic status, what have you. It's a place where people kind of can gather and be on the same playing field in terms of everyone is there to purchase their food. And what you kind of find in places like that is that barriers are really broken and that folks are really willing to engage with people that maybe they otherwise would not in their communities. And so kind of fast forwarding to 2026 and what we're able to do with Breaking Bread and the model in 2026, as some of you may be familiar, the 250th anniversary of the US's birthday, the semi-quincentennial. So kind of in line with that, what we've been trying to do is what we have done as of last week, we completed our 21st dinner. The idea is that we looked at the 7 neighborhoods in Philly that had the highest percentage of immigrant residents. And so armed with that knowledge, we essentially went out and started to identify key community partners in each of those neighborhoods to identify not only immigrants, but also, again, like longer term Philadelphians to kind of bridge what folks may perceive as like insurmountable barriers of like, oh, well, I'll never have a chance to talk to that person. And so, or I don't think that they speak the same language as me. So I'm not going to really attempt to talk to them. So the idea is that we had the 7 neighborhoods, we had our partners established, which at the end of all said and done, we had over 40 partners involved in this across the city. We hosted a series of 3 dinners. So you can see on the slide some of the different locations we've been in across the cities. And really the content of the dinners was, well, sorry, I'll go back in that there was facilitated dialogue for each of these dinners. So it wasn't just that you show up and talk to your neighbor. Of course, it was that, but it was a bit more intentional and that folks are really encouraged to talk about certain topics and then more organically speak to each other in their neighborhoods if they see each other. So dinner 1 was just talking about food and food tradition, which, as we know, is very powerful. Everybody eats, everybody has a background with food. Dinner 2, folks, the same cohort of people would come back to talk about community and what it means to be a good neighbor or a bad neighbor. And then dinner 3, again, kind of aligning with the 250th anniversary that we're celebrating this year in the US. The idea was that we can talk about citizenship and, not just what it means in terms of a legal status, but as, people gathered 250 years ago to talk about what are the different tenets of being a good citizen, what should change and what could contemporary citizenship look like as informed by a diverse group of people, men, women, people of color, and so forth and so forth. So since then, I'll talk a little bit about the 21 dinners. We had over 700 people that participated. I want to say like over 30 local restaurants that we highlighted at each of the dinners. 40 different countries represented, 15 languages spoken and interpretation provided. And about $55,000 that we received in funding that was reinvested back into local restaurants throughout the city. And so our hope is that it's not that we're just bringing folks together to have these conversations across different venues in terms of like mosques, temples, other community places. But the hope is that through all of these 21 dinners, we can distill what we're calling a Philly flavored recipe for citizenship. That again is just slightly more representative of contemporary citizenship. And so, as I mentioned, we've wrapped up the 21 dinners, but Breaking Bread is not over. In September, we're going to gather everybody from all of the 7 neighborhoods in the different pockets of Philadelphia, which is a very neighborhood-based city. Sometimes people don't even leave their neighborhood. So our hope is that we can gather everybody at Independence Mall, all 700 folks from all of the dinners to reveal that recipe that everybody's conversations help to inform. And so we're really excited and it's been great. So thank you.
Also want to add that we will have Welcoming Center partnered with Mural Arts Philadelphia, which I am part of this Welcoming Center initiative on Mural Arts side. We are project managing like murals to happen in these 7 neighborhoods. So different artists are like associated with these neighborhoods that they're mostly familiar or know of, and they have been to these dinner series, and we also hope to reveal some of those designs in that September like meeting.
Thank you, Taj and Lily. So just to reiterate, you had 21 dinners across the city. You very intentionally made sure the right people from the neighborhoods were there, both long-term citizens and new arrivals. There was facilitated conversation at each of the tables, leading up to an aggregate of 700 people coming together at our very own Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was written, and they're going to reveal a new sort of vision of citizenship in the 21st century that belongs to all of us. And on top of that, Mural Arts Philadelphia has been participating in these listening sessions and will it will lead to 3 new murals of this concept throughout the city. Wow, guys, this is much
5.
more than dinner and oh, 5? Okay, I've got acting off of the old press release.
Yeah.
So this is much more than just getting together and having a nice meal and conversation. You're doing really important work, and then there's a visceral change to the city and a declaration such such a big call for all of us to think about how big these dinners can get and how meaningful they can be. So thank you guys so much. I think hearing about this program was the inspiration for us doing this webinar because of the DNA that you've baked into your series and that it was funded by the America 250 initiative and by the city of Philadelphia. And that's really, really powerful that this was truly a civic participatory effort. So applause to you both. Hard act to follow, and unfortunately, I'm next. So thanks a lot. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Smolar. I'm the director of Placemaking US, but in my own backyard, I run my local food council, Long Beach Fresh. And we have something coming up that we're very excited to be talking about, and that really relates to what we've seen so far, which is the idea of building our cities and building our connections around the banquet table, being very culture forward and food forward in how we approach participation in democracy and in our community building. So we were very fortunate to be one of the grantees this year from AARP's Community Challenge Grant, which is an annual national grant for placemaking. This is the second time we've gotten it, and both times we used it for food. This time we focused on including our seniors in our food system through making our healthy food sites, our gardens, our markets, our local restaurants more accessible and walkable to our residents. And we're working in a neighborhood that's incredibly environmentally impacted by the nature that its neighbor is the largest shipping port in North America. So all your Amazon goods and everything you're ordering and a lot of the products you use ship right through this neighborhood and pollute it, and is a huge environmental justice site and a very culturally diverse neighborhood. It has the largest Asian population in our city, which are Filipinos, and it has a large Black and Latino population. It formerly had a large Japanese population, but they were removed in the 1940s and sent to internment camps, and then did not return as a sizable group population to this neighborhood. So a lot of history here and a lot of fragmentation of these amazing cultures that inhabit it today. So, we are hosting a series of cultural feasts and actions over a very dense period of time to help build momentum and alignment in our community and empower them to have more agency over their neighborhood. So, we're very excited about this one event called Michotes and the Matriarchy. A Michote is sort of like a barbacoa where you cook a sheep under the ground, but in this case, it's paquetas and they steam it. And so, Chef Sandra from Rancho Sabor, we're going to be she's going to be killing one of her sheep and preparing it. And we'll be in a garden space with some indigenous women that we love working with, who will be nixtamalizing corn, making masa. So, very traditional practices from the Mexican culture. And then we're going to be bringing together a group of Latina mothers from the neighborhood, and we're going to be telling them stories about how mothers have been a huge impactful force in urbanism and shaping our cities for good. So some people don't know, but Jane Jacobs, who's the patron saint of placemaking, actually started as a mother fighting for her neighborhood park for her children. And the creative campaign that she waged against Robert Moses, the builder of New York City, to save Washington Square Park, culminated in her book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, which is one of the founding philosophies of the placemaking movement. Other movements like Amsterdam's bike culture can trace themselves back also to a mother's movement as well. And so we want these mothers to feel empowered that their maternal instincts and knowledge for their family life is also extends to the neighborhood and the city. We're also working with the Filipino community. They actually did a 400-person community health survey with the health department, understand that there's a heavy proclivity for diabetes, hypertension, and obesity and heart disease in the neighborhood, and it's because of a overconsumption of red meat, of fried foods, of white rice. And so we're working with local Filipino chefs in our community to do a healthy kamayan dinner, which is a big feast with banana leaf tablecloth and different foods sort of piled as a food sculpture. Reminds me, Chef Onyx, of your beautiful displays. But we're going to be both featuring the healthier foods of the cuisine of the culinary culture and also updating a few things so that there's some new ideas that can be spread, but in a very friendly and familiar cultural format. Also in the neighborhood, we have a really unique bakery. This is Alyssa Ariano, who actually was a baker at the French Laundry, one of the fanciest restaurants in the world. But now she actually bakes out of her ADU, her accessory dwelling unit. Her little back granny cottage is an adorable little bakery. She does pickups and drop-offs of bread every week and also hosts pizza parties for the neighborhood and paint your own sourdough parties. And she has found that because she mills her own bread and or flour, and because she does a 48-hour ferment on her sourdough, that her mother, who wears a glucosameter, has no glycemic spike when she consumes her bread. And so they actually are showing that high quality local ingredients and care can actually allow you to enjoy and consume the most delicious foods you can imagine and things that are might be on the naughty chart for those experiencing diabetes and pre-diabetes, that actually when prepared properly you can eat those foods. And also Jasmine Garcia, our intern who is here off screen right now, her mother will also be there presenting some of her traditional herbal wisdom, like how she consumes passion flower, which grows in the neighborhood, to also, I think, positively affect her diabetes. So we're also going to be placemaking at the food distribution site. So this is a low-income neighborhood, and seniors are actually experiencing huge growth in homelessness and food insecurity, as Melanie Wong, who's here also from the California Policy Council, was telling me yesterday. And so there's multiple food distribution sites in the city and in this neighborhood, and this one is the biggest. It's 400 people, and they come together and they line up and they get numbers and they spend a lot of time at this park. But there is services, but there could be more things to do. And so Jasmine went out to the last distribution and creatively got input from everybody, and they want to be dancing, they want to be doing chair yoga, they want to sing karaoke, they want to do Zumba. So they gave us lots of ideas of things that we could do to help them create a more friendly environment for the food distribution that takes advantage of the fact that there's 400 elders coming together and they could really be productive in community building in this activity. And so we're excited to enhance that as part of it. We're also going to be joined by Nick Mann, who is a local influencer. And he's been doing these really cool videos where he eats neighborhoods across Los Angeles. So he says, today I'm eating Santa Monica, today I'm eating Gardenia. And he actually came down and ate Long Beach a few times so far, but we're going to have him eat Santa Fe Avenue on the west side and show us what parts of our neighborhoods are actually edible, from weeds and native plants to fruits that might be overhanging, and even things growing in our gardens that might not be recognizable as food, but are actually nutritious sources of nourishment. Uh, we're also going to be showing the new film, the documentary about 34th Avenue in New York City and Queens, which is the longest open street in the city. And the Open Streets program in New York has been going on for 6 years. And this one is 1.3 miles long, and it's closed every day to car traffic, but open to the community, who uses it as a buffet of exciting things, from 7,000 school children who use it to get to and from school, to seniors and the disabled who are able to circulate in the neighborhood because they couldn't walk or roll on the sidewalks, but the streets are more accessible for them to get out, run into neighbors. There's a pool party, there's a little tattoo shop, there's dancing, there's painting, there's book reading activities. There's hundreds of things going on along this street. And we're so lucky we're bringing Jim Burke, the mayor of 34th Avenue, who runs this street, to share this technology with our community and hope that our neighborhoods can start to think about their own street closures, whether it's 1.3 miles long or just a block, and just 365 days a year or just on the weekends. But how can we turn our streets into these buffets, these places that we can come and bring all of our beings and fun and excitement and programming to? And most excitingly, I guess, is you can actually join us at this activity. So this is coming up all at the end of August, and we have 2 rooms left at the Placemaker Palace. So if this is really intriguing to you, and you want to be a part of this and see how it works and get your hands wet doing this, I think this beats any placemaking conference, because you're actually going to get out, do work in community, see how these things happen, and be a part of these amazing feasts and festivals. So we welcome you to fill out our interest form. I'll drop the link in the chat as soon as I get out of my roles and responsibilities here on the screen. And we'd love to see 2 more placemakers come and join us at the end of August. Kat, you got a question for me because I can't ask myself one?
I love that you have this application for people to come and join in. Is that you said that they should just apply? Can we drop the link in the chat so that if anybody wants to come and apply to be a part of that, they can easily find that?
Yep, it's coming in hot.
Awesome. I don't know about y'all, but I've been getting so inspired and so hungry with this whole beautiful buffet we've been talking about here. Let's keep it rolling. What do you think, Ryan?
Absolutely. I will pull up our next all-star, who is Carl from Maine, who's got a really, really interesting, intentional, and unique program that's happening statewide across Maine. Carl, take us away.
All right. Here, let me share screen. How is that? Everyone seeing that?
Yeah, looks great, Carl.
Right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Carl Schatz. Along with my wife, Margaret Hathaway, I'm the co-founder of a Community Plate. It's just a real honor to be here today alongside so many other amazing programs and presenters. Community Plate is a Maine-based nonprofit that reimagines and reinvigorates the long tradition of community potlucks, using storytelling as a source of connection and entertainment. We started in 2023 as a way to bring Mainers together in person, to share family recipes and family stories and rebuild some of the community that was lost during the pandemic. At a time when loneliness is considered an epidemic, when it feels like the country is more divided than united, when we spend more time on screens than in face-to-face conversations, sharing a meal or a story or a recipe, while some might say it's a radical act, it's really just a very modest gesture that can have an outsized impact. The Surgeon General's Advisory on Loneliness in May of 2023 introduced a national strategy to increase social connection. And we saw quickly that Community Plate addressed two of the pillars in that strategy directly: strengthening social infrastructure in local communities and creating a culture of connection. So research increasingly shows that despite the fact that Americans are willing to connect, there just aren't enough opportunities to gather with strangers and experience the serendipity that happens when we do. And this is especially true in rural places like Maine. So since June of 2023, we've hosted what we call story sharing potluck suppers. We've hosted more than 50 suppers across all of Maine's 16 counties, for as few as 15 people and as many as 100. They happen in church basements, in community centers, outside courtyards, under tents, in libraries, theaters, art galleries, and even a retrofitted cow barn. The program is specifically designed to be put on in places where there's no commercial kitchen or really any kitchen facility anywhere. So it really expands the number of places where we can go and put on a community meal. We always work with a local community partner. And I should also mention that it's always free. So we believe very strongly that there should be no economic barriers to participating in community. And we see just the positive impact every time we do one of these suppers. So our recipe for community building success includes a secret sauce, which is creating an elevated experience that's focused on attention, generosity, gratitude, and care. Our philosophy is really about meeting people where they are and encouraging people to be their best selves, building an environment where everyone feels like they belong. There's a magic that takes over at these suppers that can be hard to describe. Becky, a grandmother, came to one of our first suppers. She came in and sat down and told me that she'd come because she was lonely. And it was the first time that I'd ever heard anyone say this out loud. And it was really a powerful moment for me. But what happened next was even more powerful. April, the young woman sitting next to Becky, immediately wrote down her phone number, and then Patty did too. And the three of them went out and got coffee the next day. I think they went to a mayoral debate the next week. And a year later, all three of them were good friends that relied on each other all the time. The combination of sharing food and sharing stories, it engages us in both giving and receiving. It invites us to be generous and vulnerable and open to connection. And that's really the power of the potluck. We incorporate storytelling because everyone has a food story. Sharing food and stories is one of the things that connects us and makes us human. This is the foundational premise of Community Plate. Food-focused story prompts are on table tents, provide scaffolding for conversation during the meal. And then during coffee and dessert, we organize a lineup of storytellers who get up and perform first-person personal narrative stories. So it's not only a dinner and a show, but we create both individual and collective opportunities to experience connection. Science and research tell us that loneliness can have not only negative mental health impacts, but also physical health impacts as well. And shared meals, the arts, in our case, storytelling, can have positive chemical, emotional, and physical health benefits. So food is the invitation that brings us together, and storytelling is the connective tissue that holds us together. And as a final piece, we collect the recipes and stories that people bring to each potluck and create individual community cookbooks for each supper. This acts as an artifact of the community that was created that evening and of the connections made. And it preserves our family recipes, stories, and local food traditions even as they expand to include new foods, new stories, and new traditions. And everyone who comes to each supper gets a free copy of this cookbook. So connection and community are muscles that need to be exercised. And as a society, for many reasons, we are simply out of practice. And so at Community Plate Suppers, we give people the opportunity to practice conversation and active listening, attention and generosity. The philosopher Simone Weil said that attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. And so at Community Plate Suppers, we practice that attention and generosity. And as a result, nearly everyone who comes to a supper makes a connection. So we're in the process of building out a downloadable toolkit. Eventually, it will have instruction, templates, scripts, timelines, and guidelines, story prompts, and supper themes, supper variations, evaluation tools, and all the creativity and philosophy of hospitality and artistic expression that Community Plate has been modeling here in Maine for the past 3 years, so that any community anywhere can experience the same impact. And so if you'd be interested in receiving a copy of the current draft, it's still a work in progress, but we have a current draft of the toolkit, and you're welcome to contact us at community@communityplate.me, and we'd be happy to share the work that we're doing with you. Thanks.
Wow, thanks, Carl. I would love to highlight that the size of the communities that you're working in across the state are very small, or many of them are very small, and placemaking kind of gets pigeonholed as an urban phenomenon, but it's so great that you're able to create these engagements and that they're necessary, important, and happening in all contexts. And also shout out to your state arts commission that's here. Love the way that you're taking these dinners and turning them into cookbooks, and that the relationships are continuing. And amazing that you, as a husband and wife team, are able to tackle an entire state and invite them all to dinner.
Well, it's really thanks to the community partners that we work with. It's part of the reason that that's part of our model, is working with community partners and working with partners like the Maine Arts Commission, because it really makes our job easier, and we can come in and provide a program, and they can provide the community. So it works well.
Great. Well, so we really started with purpose and then kind of went into programming. And now let's get into some policy about ways that people are systematizing and enabling this type of interaction so that they're not just special events, but that they're part of our everyday culture and society. So I'm really excited to bring in my colleague Roya, who is leading the Cook Alliance and the campaign to legalize home restaurants. Long Beach, where I do my food policy work, we were, I think, one of the most recent to approve this law, and we're so excited and grateful for Cook Alliance, who supported us from day one to getting the law passed and now into implementation. And Roya is going to lead you through how this can occur in your jurisdiction as well.
Thanks so much, Ryan, and thanks for having us. Just so excited to, be here, hear all these amazing stories. I'm actually going to go ahead and share a video first, and which will kind of explain what MECOs are and how this all works. Sorry, one sec. All right.
What if a home kitchen could be more than just a place to feed your family? Across California, many home cooks are turning their culinary talents into thriving businesses, legally, safely, and right from their own kitchens. This is the MECO Permit Program, and it's opening doors for everyday people to share their food, their culture, and their passion with their communities. Thanks to AB 626, California legalized and standardized home restaurants, creating a real pathway for caregivers, parents, immigrants, and aspiring entrepreneurs to build food businesses from home. MECOs offer the most affordable entry into the food world. No commercial kitchen, no expensive equipment, just your home, your recipes, and your schedule. Whether you're looking for flexible income or transitioning from informal sales to a fully legal business, MECO creates a clear, protected path forward on your terms. Safety isn't optional, it's built in. Every Miko cook completes a food manager certification and has their kitchen inspected by their county health department, just like a restaurant. These home kitchens are held to professional food safety standards and meal preparation limits to ensure quality and compliance. When you order from a Miko, you're getting safe, freshly prepared food. It's easy to find a Miko near you. Here's how it works. Place an order directly with the cook, whether that's online, by phone, or through their network. Cooks prepare meals fresh in their certified home kitchens. You can enjoy your meal through pickup, delivery, or even dine in at the cook's home. Every order supports local food and a small business in your community. Mikos are strengthening neighborhoods across California, creating jobs, expanding access to fresh and culturally diverse food, and building economic opportunity right where people live. This isn't just about permits, it's about people, possibility, and bringing communities together through food. Ready to start your own Miko business or discover incredible home-cooked meals in your neighborhood? Visit Cook Alliance and Cook Connect to learn more. Because everyone deserves good food and great opportunities.
All right. Well, that was kind of a little bit about what Mikos are and how they work. And just in terms of who we are, we're the Cook Alliance. We're a nonprofit organization that champions the law in California, and we are dedicated to legitimizing and uplifting home-based culinary entrepreneurs. So we provide education, technical assistance, and resources to help home cooks succeed. A lot of them are people who have been doing this informally under the table and are now coming out of the shadows, able to legally get this permit. And for many, it's their first time becoming entrepreneurs. And so we provide a lot of those resources and support. We also conduct research and collect data on Miko implementation to support evidence-based policymaking while working with public agencies and a lot of partner organizations like Ryan and Long Beach Fresh to ensure that home cooks have a voice in these policy decisions. And so our support includes things like Cook Chat, which is mentorship, and interactive Zoom calls where cooks can actually talk and connect with each other. We have some people who have been operating Mikos for over 6 years now, people who are just getting started, who are able to connect and kind of share tips and tricks. We provide direct technical assistance. We do a lot of workshops and webinars, have a lot of guides and resources, including, insurance, marketing, things like that. And then we do also have a Cook Academy, which is a comprehensive business education course tailored to Miko specifically. And then on top of that, we also try to provide technical tools and a map so that, if you're trying to figure out, okay, where is a Miko near me, I can go and support. You can go to this map and figure out where they are from that data. And what's really incredible about Mikos is that they're very diverse. No two are alike, but the majority of operators are women, people of color, immigrants, people in underserved communities that otherwise have difficulty entering the food industry. And they are very culturally rooted. So Mikos focus on traditional or regional dishes. I've tried some meals that I've never heard of before that I don't typically see in traditional brick and mortar restaurants. It's giving people the opportunity to really share their heritage. With Mikos, they are limited to a small number of meals. And so because of that, they are able to actually really tailor their meals for people. And so you hear of people that will make customized offerings for people with medically restrictive diets. I know of a cook that was providing food regularly for someone who was going through chemo and couldn't have salt in their food. And you can't go to a restaurant and say, okay, like, don't make, my food with salt, but you can at a Miko be able to do those things and customize it. And so we do see a lot of vegan options, allergen-friendly options, and just some great options out there that otherwise you don't typically see. We have a lot of caregiver entrepreneurs, so caregivers who are using Mikos as an opportunity to earn income while balancing responsibility at home. So people caring for aging parents, children, things like that. We also have a lot of people who are retired and are looking for supplemental income because they can no longer, work outside of the house, but this gives them the opportunity to do that. And so that kind of leads into affordable living, where it is helping people stay in their homes, especially in high cost of living areas. So we do see a lot of people using it as supplemental income besides their main jobs as costs are rising. And then it's also being used as a stepping stone. So about a third of those Mikos that we've surveyed have said that they have used the program to scale into a larger food business. So I'm located in San Diego. There's actually Miko uh, that started out as a individual that started out as a Miko, and now he has a brick and mortar restaurant. And so because of the Miko, he was able to save money, get investors, and make that jump. And so it's really exciting to see. But really, no two stories are alike. And here we have a quote from Chef Denise Blackman in Riverside County. She actually has a special needs son that she typically has to, tailor her schedule around. And she explains here that she, did Uber Eats and things like that. Nothing really worked to meet her needs. And the first day that she cooked, she literally made more money than 2 weeks worth of Uber. It helped everything. Her life went from struggling paycheck to paycheck to having this means to make ends meet and doing it on my own terms. And so that's what's just really exciting about Mikos is they provide a lot of benefits for a really diverse group of people. But more than that, it's just as we've been talking about how this is about building community through food, we just hear so many stories where people are able to meet their neighbors because of their Miko to feed their neighbors. We have some Mikos that do supper clubs and kind of very similar to what was expressed before, where they're bringing together strangers to sit at a table. And so it's really exciting. And at this point in California, we have over 1,200 of these Mikos across the state, and it's continuing to expand. And our goal is to have this become nationwide. The state of Utah has implemented a program. There's pending legislation in Ohio. And we do have a lot of model legislation and tips and tools and resources if anyone is open to finding a way to have this law come to your area. So similar to cottage food, which took decades for it to spread across the country, we're hopeful that Mikos will also spread across the country and become a part of the fabric of our food system. So I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Roya. And I'm glad you highlighted that many of us might know cottage food, which is the home production of shelf-stable goods like breads, that this is about same-day hot meal service, and that it's an important stopgap in the food system because it allows entrepreneurs to enter into the marketplace at very low cost, work from home under schedules that work well with their family or situations. Um, and that it also is very interesting from an urbanism perspective because we have one of our big problems is single family zoning. So we have these giant residential pods where you don't have access to healthy food. And here, this creates a solution for that because you can't, at least in California, zone out a Miko. They're allowed. I also like to highlight that for me, in the event of an earthquake or a climate disaster where there's a discontinuity in our food system, that Mikos could act as a decentralized backbone of emergency services at the human scale as well. And so there's a huge resilience factor in this as well. So we're really excited about the work that you guys have been doing and that the support you offer, not just in California, but to other states who might be interested in passing this law at the state level and enacting it. So we're going to move forward to our last presenter. And I think, at working in the food system for over a decade, what you learn is that we don't have a problem. There isn't not enough food. There isn't not enough creative and talented people willing to bring food into their neighborhoods. There's not a lack of people passionate about food, but there's a disconnection in our alignment, how we work together, how we understand the full spectrum of production to distribution to hospitality. And luckily, I think Daniel represents that quarterback that we've been missing in our food systems because he's worked up and down the chain and also is a boisterous, kind of friendly and intelligent guy who can really help call everyone into the room, make them realize they're all a team and that it's time to work together and fix this one city at a time. So Daniel, can you show us a little bit about what you understand about your X-ray level of the entire food system in a local context and how you approach that?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Um, Let me get to the screen sharing. Yeah, can you guys see that and hear me? Everybody good?
We don't see your screen yet.
I
Okay.
do. I see the screen and I can hear you just fine, Daniel.
Okay, great. Um, okay, fantastic. Well, there's an underlying thesis, Ryan, and I love all these placemakers and doers on this call and bringing together the panelists. And I also recognize a lot of those names that are attending as amazing doers all over the country. So what an exciting time. I think one of the underlying sort of themes that bring us all together is that we recognize that we search for places where we belong, that every single one of us are looking for the same thing, a place where we feel welcome, a place that reflects who we are, and a place worthy of our time, talents, and future. And one of the things that bind that together so much is food, which is one of the reasons why I love to work with food and placemaking and have for years. I have a varied background. Over the last 30 years, I have a bias for doing. I'm a kinesthetic learner, so everything from acting, filmmaking, chef, restaurateur. I've been a developer, nonprofit executive, and I've learned an awful lot about the doing side of things. But right around 2014, after working in systems that continued to frustrate me, that you had these plans that never connected with the doers, they were disconnected from the implementation side. They were top down and talking about these big systems without engaging the people doing the work, that I started Velocity Group to actually bridge those two worlds together, right? To engage the doers and empower those doers, but also address the systems issues that get in the way of us implementing this work. And food is one of the primary functions of that disconnect, right? And so I identified sort of 7 areas that a robust food system from a long-term sustainability needs to consider when looking at this. And the reason why I did this, team, is really to say this is a very quick assessment that when you walk into a community to do this type of work, you can do an asset base, because I believe in starting with assets that you have, not deficits, but assets, to do an audit of your community from a big picture perspective. And then you build strategies around your gaps, right? So first we think about production. What are you making? What are you growing out of the ground? What are you making in these home places? What are you making in production, beer, bakery, etc.? Next is distribution. How do you move that product around your community? How do you export that product to other communities, right? Nothing is a better brand ambassador for your community when someone is eating a hot sauce from 3 states away with your name, your community name on Made By, right? So how do you distribute? How do you store? Cold storage, freezer storage, all that is part of that ecosystem. Next, thinking about access and equity. How do people access all of this food, not just from those that need, but those that want, right? And then creating sort of a flat system that allows people, no matter where you are, to participate in the opportunity of this food, right? Next is the activation. This is the jazz hands of the food scene, right? It's your festivals, it's your restaurants, it's the great programs that have been talked about today, and so many other things, the things that people inevitably engage in. It's really hard to get people excited about a code or a distribution strategy, but when they're eating and hanging out together, that's really sort of the gateway to so much of this work. But then you have to have a story and a brand behind it, right? If no one's talking about this, how do you sort of build movement and momentum, that authenticity, that realism? I love the phrase that someone said that every dish has a story behind it. How do we celebrate those stories and use the momentum of that storytelling to change perception of our communities, both for ourselves as well as those that are coming in? But then we also know policy and management. How many people have tried to work with the health department to try to get things done? Or a city. Ryan, I know you've been posting things about the frustration of running up against bureaucracy when trying to implement things. Policy and management is so much of the grit in this wheel sometimes that we have to address that, as well as leadership and who's owning some of this momentum. And then education, that pipeline of both upselling, right? And not upselling, but sort of helping people get better at what they do, whether you're a home cook and understanding how to do things better, but also K 4 through 12. How are we engaging kids within schools to understand food? Because they take that education home, and that's where revolution starts, right? They get excited at schools, they take it at home. But then we're also talking about upskilling those who are already in the industry. How do we help them become better at who and what they are, our entrepreneurs, our operators, our line cooks? So when you think about all 7 realms, this is a great opportunity to address from a systems perspective the 7 things that you need to think about when strengthening your local food system. Now, who is the team behind this? So this is another audit that I often do within a community. There are 4 sort of realms of the team. First, the government, right? They provide that leadership oftentimes, set those policies, and really create the conditions for some of these communities. They have to be at the table. They absolutely have to be at the table. Our nonprofit sectors, that coordination, that activation, bringing people together, turning people on, that's a sector that needs to be engaged. Philanthropy plays a vital role in how they invest, where they invest, helping people take those early risks because their capital functions differently than perhaps the private market. And this is where innovation and risk and innovation and scaling these solutions really play a seismic role. But these systems aren't just the responsibility of one or the other. You really have to think about all 4 realms working together, Ryan. This is once again setting up these partnerships that really the goal of this work is to bring all 4 of these realms together to work in tandem with each other, because then you have sustainable collaboration and partnerships with your resources. You're not duplicating efforts. You're creating an efficiency and deepening impact when all 4 of these realms work together. And then next, we have to think about both the hardware and software of this work. The buildings, the public spaces, the streets, the infrastructure, lighting, private development, property and real estate, that brick and mortar. But then that software of community engagement, the events and programming, the policy and regulations, the economic development. And as placemakers, particularly within this food realm, we have to be comfortable straddling both of those worlds, right? We have to be able to speak a wide variety of languages with a wide variety of folks to be able to bring them together as a team. And once again, my background, I have a bias for doing, obviously, an implementation and have done that. But we also recognize that systems work, strategies, and planning are also vital for these sustainable efforts. And with that said, there are 2 examples that I want to sort of bring to the forefront. One is a relatively new initiative, and I saw Nan from Austin on the call today, so that's absolutely fantastic. But Mower County and Austin, Minnesota, a small rural community in southwestern Minnesota, undertook what is really quite an amazing effort of collaboration in which the Mower County Comprehensive Plan and the City of Austin Comprehensive Plan, those 2 entities came together to create a combined comprehensive plan that also included a downtown strategy framework, a parks and open space master plan, tourism, arts and culture, hospitality and restaurants, all then culminated into a comprehensive implementation playbook. But those food systems were woven into the very fabric of all of those plans, right? So it wasn't a separate conversation of food. It was, how does food play a role in this entire discussion? Because they're agricultural based, they have a wide diversity of immigration. They have a wonderful food story in this. And so really what they came out of this was an operational manual that really sort of aligned implementation. And they're just beginning to start this discussion of where do we start to implement? What are our priorities? And how do we build the teams to move forward with this? Another example that's been baking for quite much further is Bentonville, Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, where I live. We've been working on this work for 20 plus years. And we take a look at back in '08, we took over the farmers market as an epicenter from a management perspective of an epicenter of our nascent food scene. We were a dry county. We had empty storefronts. We didn't have any really restaurants to speak of at the time. And we were able to take the farmers market from 90,000 a year in business to over 820,000 a year in over 4 years, generating 3 new restaurants out of it, tons of these entrepreneurs, just out of that one farmer's market. But then we had to understand, where do they go? Where's that opportunity? The 8th Street Market is a 27,000 square foot food hub. One of the inevitable outcomes of this was also Market Center of the Ozarks. And Anthony's on this call, who was instrumental in helping make the Market Center of the Ozarks, with the aggregation, the storage, the processing, actually happen. On the farming side of things, there's a conservation fund. So basically you have a land trust that matches land and farmers, a lease to own pathway for emerging farmers. This whole idea of then coupling it with smart growth policies to protect agricultural land from sprawl. Some of the organizations that we end up creating to support a lot of this work: the Northwest Arkansas Farmers Market Alliance, the Northwest Arkansas Regional Food Council. But we also created a number of cross-sector partnerships with the Urban Land Institute, Congress for the New Urbanism, these elements that are working on land use and thinking about what other partners can we bring to the table to recognize that food is an integrated part of policy, that sometimes they often don't come and share at the same table. So how do we build those cross collaborations in this work? Then we look at education. We repositioned a culinary school, Brightwater Culinary School, but we also have a land grant university here, the University of Arkansas. So they started farming training partnerships. We started working on a whole culinary and agricultural workforce development. And then on some of these small ordinances, working on food trucks, we had to go through a whole conversation of our Cottage Industry Act to be able to open up tons of different opportunities for our local food folks. So recognizing that these are two examples, one that is very young and figuring it out, one that has been baked. But I think what's important is that there are always many hands, hearts, and minds behind this work. That's why I'm so passionate about thinking from a systems perspective and building teams to execute and empower those doers within a community. And so my basic thesis for this work is build the system and the projects will follow. There's examples, and because I only have 5 to 7 minutes, I can't go into the detail of all of these projects, but there are hundreds of projects that have come out of this work across the country. I've worked in probably 75 plus communities across North America as of right now. There are so many people doing such incredible work. And so I'm incredibly grateful to hear some of the stories that have occurred, seeing the people that are participating in this conversation and the work they're doing. And I just kind of want to finish to say thank you all for doing the work that you're doing across the United States and the world. It matters, it makes a difference, and it's honored to be a part of this overall team. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And I love the systemic approach that you have. It makes it feel like the city is one big farm, one big pantry, one big restaurant, and it's possible that we can all understand the pieces as a whole system and start to fix the inefficiencies up and down the chain, which is so important. I think we started our conversation today with the wisdom and heritage and knowledge that we all have and the passion we have to bring forth food systems. But I feel like by the end, with what you're articulating, that can lead to the systemic shifts that we need so that we're growing the food, that it's being distributed, that it's accessible, and that we are coming around and understanding meaning in the policy breaks that don't allow it to happen. So I hope that every community in the nation gets to pick your brain.
Hmm.
This today was a very ambitious 7 course meal that we just digested in a mere hour and a half of service, and we are right up against the edge of our time. So I would like to just ask if any of our hosts, our co-hosts, really, if you learned something today or you are reaffirmed in what you do. And then with our participants, I hope that you'll be in touch with us. If this inspires your program, improves your program, if you go out and do something, please feed that back to us because we spent a lot of time and energy to prepare this information for you, this beautiful meal. And we'd love to know how it tasted and what you did with it. So make sure that you stay in touch. I know we have great organizations on the call and institutions and communities that are making huge impacts. So please feed that back to us so we understand what the impact of today is. But I'll leave it to the panel if you could each maybe say a a sentence or so about what inspired you today or where you're leaving this meal with. Why don't we start with Taj?
Sure. Hey everyone. I I think I have just really loved hearing about so many similar programs. Specifically, Carl talking about kind of the community dinners and the intentional model. I mean, everybody really, but just like the intention and like somebody said in the comments, the like tiers of thought that go into all of these programs. It's a lot to digest, and I'll be thinking about it for a long time and reaching out. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, and let us know how the big day goes. Nia Rika or Chef Onyx, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes. Yeah. Onyx,
Okay.
do you want to go first? You can.
Oh, you could go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, it's been quite an enriching experience, a lot of information, and it's like 12:15 a.m. midnight. So I'm trying to stay awake, but everyone's presentation has been amazing. I've learned so much, and one common thread that I see across everyone is that food, it is also about building relationships and how do we connect with places, how do we connect with people and strengthen our, relationship with everyone. So I think it's more than just sharing a meal. It is about sharing stories and experiences. So how do we see food not just as a product, but as an experience that is deeply rooted in our place. So it's been an amazing webinar listening to all of these amazing people. And thank you, Ryan, for bringing us together. Yeah.
Yes, so it has been amazing to hear everyone's stories and their connection to food and community, and that with each speaker, there's been one common theme, and that is community and the people. And that means so much. And I've learned so much in just this short hour. And I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to share a piece of Jacksonville with everyone.
Duval. All right. Carl, can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so inspiring to hear about all these other programs happening around the country. It's especially in rural places as we're doing this work of building community. We're trying to solve loneliness, but it's often lonely work, doing these, if you're the only organization in a place or a state that's doing this. So it's always just to know that you're part of a larger community who care about these same things, who see the world the way that you do through the lens of food and community. It's really heartwarming and just gives you the energy to keep going. So I just want to thank everyone for that.
Well, I think what you do really resonates. You're the only person on this panel that we don't really know. Like we just saw your work and then we became friends. Everyone else came through a trusted amigo. So your work speaks for itself, and you're a lovely guy too. So we're so great to get to know you through this process. Roya,
Yeah, this has been amazing. One of our mottos is that it takes a village to do this work, and it feels really great to feel like this has also been kind of a village of people that are coming together. Everyone's working within the food system, and so I feel very inspired and hope that we can continue to connect because I think there's definitely power in numbers as well, especially when it comes to enacting change and within the food system. And so, yeah, thank you to Ryan Cat for bringing us together, and thank you to all of my fellow panelists for your inspiring stories and work that you're doing.
great. And Daniel, you kind of already summarized because you went last. So I'm going to throw it to Kat to
Yeah.
tell us what, you thought and where we go from here.
I mean, I feel like we just went to a potluck. First of all, this was a potluck of inspiration and joy and beauty and brains and community. I feel full. Like this was soul food for me. So I'm just thrilled that we got to sit at this virtual table and learn from each other, scooping up slices of ideas that people can use, scooping up inspiration, ways they can remix it in their own home kitchen where you live, and put this out there. I wrote in the chat, I want to know, like you said, if people try this stuff, tell us what you did, tell us what you're going to do. How are you going to make this real? Even if it's just the next time you get your 3 friends or your 3 neighbors together, right? Every project doesn't have to be as big as the whole world, but it can be. And stories like this do inspire us. But I want people to know that you can take this and make this real, even if your project is like just you and the people on your block, right? Start small, start wherever you are, and believe in the power of food to bring community together. Because as we can see, it works.
Thank you all, and bon provecho, bon appetit. Let's eat. See you at dinner.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here.